We're now recording this video on the top 3 Facebook strategies for business. So if you, I'm talking to people who are now on the webinar, of course, but if you have to leave during a certain point, you're welcome to come back to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/splashmediau, and check it out there. We'll post it there. But I'm recording this now, so we'll have it. Welcome everyone to Blab. Thank you so much to those of you who tried to join us yesterday for your patience as we tried this new platform out. Yesterday, the problem is I don't even have an explanation for it. I don't know what the issue was with Google Hangouts, but needless to say, we needed another platform because of the errors we were getting. And I'm kind of excited. This is a great excuse to try Blab, which is just huge now, gained enormously in popularity over the last few months. I heard about it. I'll give a shout out. Heard about it from Social Media Examiner, and they love it. Thought we'd give it a try, and so I hope you'll bear with us. This is our inaugural webinar through Blab, but very excited to bring you this particular topic and on a new platform. I'm going to go ahead, and it looks like we've got some attendees here. Hopefully everyone is joining in now and will be able to stay with us the whole time. We're going to keep it short. I respect your time, of course. We're going to try to keep this as close to half an hour as possible, so I want to go ahead and get started now. We've got Julio Lebron, who is our marketing coordinator for Splash Media U, over on the Full Sail campus. We are an affiliate school of Full Sail University. So Julio's over there on the campus, and if you see some comments there from Splash Media U, that is Julio chiming in, which is great. We're also going to have these poll questions scattered throughout because we want to make this webinar as interactive as possible. So we're going to be talking to you, and feel free to put your answer right here in the chat window, which you hopefully see on the right. One thing you can also do, one thing that's neat about Blab, is there are keystrokes that you can use to send certain types of messages. So if you want to ask a question, if you just click on that little slash there, you can see how you can format a question with /Q before your question, and that makes your question pop up as a little blue bubble. So we'll know right away that that's a question. So try those out. I think those will be a lot of fun. So I'm going to go ahead now and switch over to the, and Julio's typing in now. Feel free to chat with us. Also, feel free to use that, as Julio was mentioning here, use that on Twitter. So the poll questions will have Q1, Q2, Q3, etc. So if you're on Twitter, go ahead and when you use the hashtag #SplashWebinar, also use A1, A2, A3 to match the question. So I can know which question you're answering, although I'm guessing there's enough of I think there's enough of a break in between the poll questions that I'll be able to figure it out. But I've got separately here, because I'm about to go full screen with the presentation, separately here I've got my Twitter open on my phone so I can see and answer some of these questions. But of course, I'm loving the chat window here. Again, this is a relatively new platform and brand new to us, so we're excited to use the chat over here. Okay, with that, that's enough talking about the intros. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up to a question to you as soon as I switch over to my presentation screen. So I'm going to show my whole screen here. It's going to look weird for a second. And now I'm going to switch over to the presentation. As I mentioned before, Blab's new to us, but we're also going to be monitoring the hashtag #SplashWebinar on Twitter, so feel free to put your answers to the polls in there. And speaking of polls, let's start with one. What is your biggest frustration with marketing on Facebook? What we're talking about today is the top 3 strategies that I would recommend that should guide and govern your overall Facebook marketing tactics. The overall campaign strategy that you use on the platform. So what is the biggest frustration that you see? That's what I'm looking for here. Let me go back here for a second. Hopefully you're not seeing the, oh, there we go. Sorry, I had to switch my screen over for a second. I had to hide that little bar. There we go. So if you would go ahead and put it in the comments there, and Julio can answer, and I'll look at the the hashtag as well, hashtag splash webinar. So is it the timing? Do you feel like you don't have enough time to post what you need to post? Is it that you're not getting any interaction on your page? So let's say you've got 1,000 fans, but nobody's actually responding to your content. There are no comments, no shares, no likes. Is it that you're trying to divide the responsibility up among too many people? Maybe you've got too many cooks in the kitchen and everybody's trying to do a little bit of everything on Facebook. Or maybe you don't have enough people working on your marketing strategy, your social media content. So it all falls on the shoulders of one person, which can be extremely overwhelming, and it's hard to manage if everything comes under one person's job umbrella. So I'm taking a look at the answers here. I may have to switch back and forth to see your comments in the chat. But again, we're getting used to this platform. It's great so far, but of course there are always going to be some bugs to work out. So let me switch back over for a second. All right, we can go ahead and move on. Feel free to go ahead and chat in your answers in Twitter or here in the comments in the live chat, and but we'll move on for now. So the reason I asked this poll, the reason I asked this question about your biggest frustration is because I wanted a way to introduce these 3 principles to sort of guide what you do on Facebook. And here they are. These are basically what we're going to talk about today. Training brand advocates, making the content personal, and then really just building on your success, doing more of what works. So if you're short on time, you can leave the webinar now. I've already told you everything we're going to learn. We're going to talk about these 3 things. There's a little bit more to it than that. So if you have the full half hour, go ahead and stay with us because I want to dive into each one of these individually. The first is training brand advocates. What I mean by an advocate for your brand is someone who's already loyal to the company. And that could be an employee, that could be a friend or family member, a loyal customer. These are the people who know you and love you and want to talk about you. In order to grow your online presence and spread the digital word of mouth, it's essential to empower these people that are close to your brand to talk about your brand. You have to tell them in a lot of cases that you want them to talk about you. And sometimes it needs that extra little push in order to get them going. So here's a question related to brand advocates. Does your company have a social media sharing policy? And what is that policy? In other words, do you have any rules, any ground rules that determine how your employees use social media and how they should be sharing your content? The first place to look for brand advocates is right within your company, is the employees themselves. And I think a lot of businesses struggle with how to get their employees to share. How much time should their employees spend sharing content on social media and how much is appropriate? Because, of course, you don't want to invade their privacy and the privacy of their friends and their networks and their family members, because that's primarily who they're going to be talking to on social media. They're going to want to talk to their friends and family members, not talk about work, or they'll want to complain about work and not spread the content that your company is sharing on social media. So what is your social media sharing policy? And I'm going to go back over to Twitter for a second and see if we have any tweets coming in. Thanks to Julio. Julio is putting up the, on Splash Media U's Twitter account, he's putting up images and questions corresponding to these polls. So feel free to reply right there or just use the hashtag and then correspond your answer to the question. And of course, those will come in as we keep going here. I think one thing that businesses struggle with, aside from how invasive they want to be with their employees in the sharing and reaching out to their own personal networks, is they go to their customers first, assuming that the customers will want to share and talk about them. But that is sadly not always the case. Customers may not know that you're online. Customers may know that you're there but not see any of the content if they're not interacting with it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. It's really difficult to go from 0 to 20 shares in the course of a few posts. It just doesn't work like that. You can't suddenly get more posts unless you're paying for advertising, and that's a whole other webinar. So in order to get in order to prime the pump is the way of putting it. In order to get the interactions going, you have to go to your trusted circle of friends, your employees, your partners, your associates, and get them to share first. That's the best way to do it, because your customers aren't gonna know to share if they don't see other people sharing. They're just not gonna know, because they're not gonna see your content. I have an example of what we're talking about here. This is a post from a company called Walnut Creek Farm. This is a CSA in Texas, a community-supported agriculture. If you're familiar with the CSA program, you can sign up with a local farm and get produce and meat and eggs and anything that the farm has available, any products that they have and animals that they raise, they share with the community, and you can buy in a share and support that farm. It's a great idea. So here's my example with this post here. It's a pretty good post. Looks like we made it to Friday. Stock up on Angus beef, fresh chicken. Great. So the post itself is okay. It's decent. The pictures are great. These are good-looking photos of the produce and meats they have to offer. And then take a look at the bottom there. No likes, no comments, no shares. And one of the reasons this is significant is because this is a page with almost 3,700 likes to the page. 3,700 likes and 50 5-star reviews. Clearly people love this company. They love Walnut Creek Farm. They want to support them. Now, it's possible that your business page has more than 3,700 likes. That is possible. But think about this scenario. I'm going to paint a little bit of a bleak picture here for you. What if your business has less? What if your business has fewer than 3,700 likes on your page? What are the odds that you're going to get some interaction if a page with 3,700 likes is getting no interaction at all on a post? I'm usually a very optimistic guy, but this is the struggle that businesses face. We have thousands of likes on our page, but we have nobody interacting with our content. So you have to start with employees, you have to start with fans, and you have to reach out to them directly and say, please share our stuff. And the best way to do that is to set up a schedule. So here's how to fix that without invading the privacy of your employee networks and your family's networks and all their friends and their family members. Set up a schedule so that it's set, the individual employees have a set time to share. So the reason I say you don't want to invade the privacy of your employees is because the employee for your company doesn't want to spend every day posting something from the brand, from the company, on his personal Facebook page. So for one thing, Facebook doesn't like that because they're using business on their personal page. For another thing, their 400 friends aren't going to like that either. My 400 friends don't like it when I post about business stuff all the time. Once in a while, it's okay. So one way to fix this is to set up a schedule. Have a calendar for your employee share responsibilities. So for example, employee 1 shares your Facebook post on the 1st of the month. Employee number 2 shares the current post on the 8th of the month. See, I'm going week by week. Employee number 3 shares the current Facebook post on day 15 of the month, and so on. You get the idea. So that way, not one person has to shoulder, or no one person I should say, has to shoulder the entire responsibility of sharing, and it's spread out enough and it's infrequent enough that the networks of your employees won't feel overwhelmed with a whole bunch of company stuff that they don't want to read about. Because employee number 3 is only sharing a company post once a month on the 15th of the month. The next step beyond setting up a schedule for this is to remind them. What you cannot do is send out an email to your employees and say, okay, we've got a company sharing policy. Here it is. Go share. They won't do it. That's just the way it works. They're not going to remember. So you have to tell them. And one way you could do this is set up a Google Calendar with everybody's share date. So John, your date is on the 3rd. David, your date is on the 4th. And just have a calendar set up, like print it and put it in your break room so that everybody sees it every time they go in for a coffee refill. They see that schedule and remember, okay, today's my day to share. You could also text message them. I mean, I may not always be on email. I may not always be on Facebook. I've always got my phone in my pocket. I'm always going to see a text message. Or maybe a Facebook will stay on the Facebook platform, a Facebook instant message through the Messenger platform. So that's a good way to do it. I think maybe we should go back for a second. Let's take a step back. Why are we doing this? Why are you setting up a schedule with your employees to share your content? The reason seems a little backwards. The reason is because if no one sees your posts, then let me start that again. If no one interacts with your posts, then no one's going to see them. So that's the part that sounds backwards. It seems like it should be if somebody sees the post, they'll interact with it. That's the way it should normally work. That's not exactly how it works on Facebook. On Facebook, you have to have interaction in order for other people to see it. It's backwards, I know, but that's the way Facebook knows that your content is good. So, for example, if no one clicks like or share or comment on your amazing cat video, people won't see your cat video. That's sort of how the algorithm works, is that when people interact, that's how Facebook knows, okay, this is good content, I'm going to show it to more people. That's the way Facebook operates. In addition to that, there's so much competition for businesses. There are millions of business pages out there. So businesses are competing for those same eyeballs that you are on your business page. So you have to have a support network within your company that, again, that's employees, it's your family members, your friends, who can take time just once a month maybe to share some content and get it out there, prime the pump and get the content shared. Walnut Creek Farm is probably a great company. Clearly it is. They have 55-star reviews. 55-star reviews. I just got to slow down when I say that. And 3,700 page likes. They're doing something right. They probably have great products, but I can't stress this enough. The post that you see on the screen, this is like buying an advertisement in a newspaper that isn't being published anymore. Do you see what I mean? Because no one saw this post. So it's great. You have a great product, but your time is better spent doing something else. I mean, if you're going to take, I don't know how long it took. It probably didn't take them that long to create this post, but it took them some time. It took somebody some time. If you're going to take the time to bring in 4 great photos and type something in there and have an actual post and no one's going to see it, your time is much better spent doing something else. Go talk to someone at a grocery store who might stock your products. Go pick up the phone and call someone who's subscribing to you. That's just, spend your time elsewhere if you're not going to get the interaction on Facebook. That's the bottom line. So, all right, let's move on. So besides training employees, how can you get your social media content seen by more people? And one way to do that is with strategy number 2, making it personal. It means several things. One thing that this means is overcoming the bias against business. As I just mentioned, there are millions of businesses on Facebook, millions of business pages competing for views, when individuals would much rather share something that their friend or family member sent, or post a status update about their own family, or read news. Publishing right now is huge on Facebook. In fact, more people, this is just an article on, where did I see this? On Forbes or Inc., I think, one of those magazines, that people are using Facebook much more for publishing and consuming publisher content than they are for sharing personal stuff. So those two behemoths of content are going to come way before your business content. So you have to take advantage of the personal side of content. And we're going to talk about how to do that in a second. So a question for you to introduce us into the personal side of your content: what do your clients have in common other than your business? So besides being clients of you, what is something that is similar among your clients? And while you're thinking about your answer, I'm going to switch over to Twitter for a second and see if anybody has an answer here. So be thinking about that. What do they have in common? Let me switch over, and I'm looking away from the screen here. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just going over to Twitter so I can see if we have anybody participating. I want to make sure I'm not ignoring anybody here. Give me 1 second here. Great. So the question is, what are their interests? What are your customer, your clients interested in outside of your company? Because, of course, your company is their first love. We all know that. They care most about you and don't care about anything else. But let's imagine that they do have interests beyond buying your products and services. What would they be? Are they luxury items? Like, do they like sailing or wine tasting? Is it more sports oriented? Do they like playing golf? Do they like watching Monday Night Football? Do they like to cook? Maybe the majority of your customers are home cooks for whatever reason. It's somewhat tangentially related to what it is that you offer. That's a possibility. That's not the only way to make things more personal. It's a great way to start. If your customers listen to country music, then you should probably be posting about the CMA Awards. That does a couple of things. That saves you time because you don't have to spend time thinking about a whole bunch of other things to post directly related to your industry. You can post these other things that your customer base are interested in. So it saves you time, and it also means you don't have to promote 24/7, which you really shouldn't be doing anyway. Every post shouldn't be about a new product or service. It should be somewhat related to what you do, but incorporating these other interests are a great way to make it personal. That's not the only way to make it personal. Here's some other examples. I love these examples. This is Samuel's Jewelers. They do great work on social media, always have lots of interaction because whoever's managing their pages is doing a great job. You can see at the bottom just some quick stats. This is not a link post. This is a photo post. It got 147 reactions. We got 12 comments, 12 shares. We're just really well done. It's got even some little icons, some little emoticons there, which is great, some little emojis. And the way they made it personal is by with a picture of an actual customer and her new ring on her hand. Not only that, but they opened the door, and I didn't show you the comments here, but they opened the door for other people to comment too by saying from 0 to 100, we give it 100. And if you go to this post on the Samuel's Jewelers page, you'll see other people rated it as well, mostly positive, but just a great job of making it personal. They featured a customer, featured a client, didn't have to put her face on there, didn't have to put a name, just a picture. That this is a client's hand and her new ring, and then invited people to comment. So here's another example. This is an example of a company taking and making their customer service personal, which I love. We talk a lot about this in our school program about how to make your customer service more personal on social media. And so many things that Sprint did well in this example. One thing they did well is referring back to the post. So the post isn't that negative. Michelle, the customer here, is just saying that she pays more than she should be paying for her number of lines. And so what Sprint did really well is referring back to her post. She mentions how she's been a customer for 7 years. So Sprint comes back and says, we appreciate your 7 years of business. Please send us a private message via facebook.com/Sprint. So it's really on this page. Go back up to the messaging section. So one thing they did well, referring back to the post and making it personal, related to that customer. Another thing they did well in making it personal is keeping it on the platform. Clearly, this customer, Michelle, wants to have her interaction on Facebook. If she wanted to talk to someone on the phone, she would have called. She didn't call. She put it on Facebook. So Sprint did number 2 thing well. They kept the conversation on Facebook, but switched it over to the private area of Facebook into messages. Third thing they did well, signed the response. At the end, Gustavo. 3 things they did well. They made it personal. So they turned it back on themselves. Sprint made it personal for them and gave Michelle the name of the customer service representative they're working with. Love this example. 3 things you can definitely take away from this if you do any customer service on Facebook, and you really should be doing customer service on Facebook. Here's another example. Love this one, taking customers behind the scenes. We reached 800 employees. We're so excited. It got 39 reactions, a comment, a share. Just a great way to bring customers in behind the scenes and show some company pride there. Last example I'm going to show you, and then we'll move on to the third and final of our strategies because I know we're getting short on time here. This is an example from JBL, and on its surface, it probably doesn't look that personal. And again, the second strategy here we're talking about is making it personal to overcome the bias, the sort of inherent bias against business pages. So turn those business posts personal. It doesn't look that personal. But here's something interesting. JBL is a B2B company. JBL Professional, I should say. JBL makes speakers, and obviously they have a huge range of products for the consumer clientele. But JBL Professional is B2B. They make products specifically for other businesses, for musicians, for other people trying to promote their own businesses, whether that's an artist or could be a restaurant that has a need for audio equipment. So this is B2B taking advantage of Facebook. I think a lot of service-oriented companies and ones that specifically have other businesses as clients think that Facebook isn't for them. This is a great example that proves that wrong. Now, here's the caveat. JBL Professional, JBL, is a large brand, so they are well known, but it can be done. They have this particular post had over 1,000 reactions. You can see at the bottom left, it's got 7 comments, 22 shares. So a B2B company is getting lots of great reactions right here on Facebook, which is primarily seen as a B2C platform. But they still, and here's why. They made it personal. They made it personal by including a photo here, which is a weird way of making things personal, but I'll show you why when we talk about which content works well in strategy number 3. But they made it personal because they're talking about their actual company events, right? So this, I'm kind of dancing around the point here, but the post itself is talking about how they're at NAB. So they're inviting people to come talk to them, come to their booth. That's the personalization tactic here. It's subtle. Again, I know it's just subtly personal, but that little extra step of saying, we're here at this event, come talk to us. Here's a photo of something that people are talking about now, one of our latest products. And again, it's a little promotional, but the little subtle techniques they're using to make this personal right there live at the event is what really makes this a success. So let's move on. We're running short on time. Let's move on to our last strategy here. And the last strategy that we're going to talk about is really just building on the successes that you're already seeing. I'm guessing you're familiar with the phrase, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. To me, that's kind of a passive approach. So it's working, so we're not going to do anything. It's not broken, so it's fine the way it is. The active side of that is, if it is working, do more. That's the social media active side of the passive, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it's working, do it some more and build on those successes that you're seeing. So here's my final question to you. And we're not having a lot of interaction on Twitter, which is totally fine. So these can just be rhetorical questions for you to think about. Where do you get the majority of your social media content ideas? And I'm going to show you where I think you should be getting them. This is a screenshot from Splash Media Use Facebook Insights. This is the Facebook's version of analytics. They call it Insights. This is a screenshot from the list of recent posts, and you can see them by date. These are pretty recent. We've got April 14th, April 13th, April 12th, April 8th. These are a list of our posts, and Julio, who's our marketing guy, he's doing a great job on these posts, making them very interactive, very personal, all of the great things we're talking about. This is where you should get your content. This should be your primary source. You may get your content from industry publications, from subject matter experts, from people, influencers in the industry talking about whatever it is that you sell, whatever business you're in. I would argue that your insights should be the primary place for content. Why? This is why. Take a look at these standouts, because what you can tell from your insights section on Facebook is which posts work particularly well. So the engagement, the reach is what you see in the sort of tannish orange color. So you've got, like at the top, 227, 155, 236. That's the reach. It fluctuates some. I mean, there is a discrepancy there between 236 and 59, those two posts that are like post number 3 and post number 4. But why is there such a discrepancy in that April 13th post that has 8 clicks? I think the blue is think the blue is clicks and the red is, you can go to your insights and confirm this. I think the blue is clicks and red is interactions. So why is there such a discrepancy between a post like that and the post right below it that only has one of each? That is where you should be paying attention to, well, some of these worked, some of these didn't. What did we do? So if you look down at the very bottom, there's one that got the most interaction, the most clicks, the most reactions. And again, reactions are the likes, the sad face, the happy face, the wows. Those are the reactions. And then the other engagement that is included in that number would be comments and shares. But why did this one post down at the bottom get so many more of both? I think one reason is because, so there are a couple of reasons. One reason is that it's a photo post. And photos on our page, just on our page, and this may be different for your page, photos tend to get more interactions than links and plain status updates, even in some cases videos, but I'll show you the results of that in a second. Also, it is personal. This post, and it kind of does a weird wrapping thing. The whole thing is not very visible here, but our post in this case is congratulations to one of our recent graduates. Is personal, and that graduate saw it, was able to share it because he felt proud that he was a graduate. It is a personal post, and it did much better in both columns. It did better in the reach. It got 400, and it did better in the click-throughs and in the engagements. A couple other places where you can measure your success and build on what you're doing well. Take a look at if you haven't seen them in a while, take a look at the demographics of your page. And these are the demographics here of, in all transparency, these are the demographics of the Splash Media U page. Fairly evenly split between women and men. Men kind of just outweighing women just by a few percentage points. But interestingly, big difference in the drop off here between the ages. It's interesting on the women's side that we have more women who are 18 to 24 and then skipping over 55 to 64. Primarily the men come from that younger demographic of 18 to 24. So just always important to come back and take a look at your demographics. Here is where I found out that the photos do really well. This is such a valuable page in your Facebook Insights to take a look at. These are the post types and the successes on average of those post types. So far and away, and it is partially because we don't share as much video on Facebook. We should, but we don't share as much video on Facebook. We share more photos, but the photos for our page, it may be different for yours, do so much better than any kind of other post. Shared the videos, the links. So this is just great insight for you. That's why it's called Insights. Great metrics for you to take a look at and see what is working well and what can we, and so what, if it's working well, how can we make it even better? How can we take what's working well, do it again, repeat it, and make it better? That's the third strategy that we're talking about here, is take a look at your successes. Where are they and how can you improve on them? And then bring everything up a level. So these things are all doing well. Let's keep doing them or do them better. And then why are these things underperforming? Let's bring those up to the level of these successes and then find the new low and bring that up. It's all about building on what you're doing well and bringing everything up that isn't doing as well to that same level. One more thing I want to show you here. This is the last example of a cool section of insights to check. This really only applies to those of you who are local businesses, but it's extremely helpful if you have a storefront. So again, this is primarily for local businesses in retail or B2C, but could be fun to experiment with if you do have a storefront and you're B2B too. This shows you when people are around your business. This is by location, people nearby. This is a geo-targeted metric here in your insights that shows the busiest times around your business. So in a certain radius, and you can change the radius here, but in a certain radius around your storefront, when are people the most active in that area? And this example here shows from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Mondays. That's just, it happens. So you can take that information and use it to have a promotion on Monday mornings or to something to bring people in the store. Again, this is specific to people who have a storefront, probably better for the retail side or the food service side, but it's a really cool statistic to take a look at. All right, let's wrap it up. We're over time here. 3 strategies to build your Facebook campaign to really where it should be, to where your Facebook platform should be on the marketing side. Train brand advocates, because you have to start somewhere. You can't just start a Facebook page and expect your customers to be there and show up and comment. You have to bring people in who you know will post and engage, and then that will spread out for you. But you have to train them first and show them how to do it, come up with a schedule, and remind them, because they're not going to remember. That's just the way it is. Make it personal. We saw some great examples of brands that are making customer service more personal. They're making their posts more personal, because there's so much competition for businesses for their pages to be seen. People would rather interact with friends. So you have to find ways to make your post more friendly, more personal, in order to be seen. And then don't forget to check your insights. Go back and see what is working, what isn't, what can I do better, what can I do more of if it is working. Find ways to build on those successes. This is probably the 3 best strategies I could think of to really take your Facebook platform to the next level. Your business page deserves to be doing so much more than it is, and I think with a little bit more effort, and not more. Let me revise that. Not more effort, but more focus on a shift in your effort. Not more. What I'm really trying to say is not working harder, working smarter. So not more effort in, but shifting that effort to certain places that may need it more than others. Please get in touch with us. Ask us any questions. We love to brainstorm with you and your business. You can tweet to me at Duncan, tweet to Julio at Splash Media U, our mastermind behind that account. You can find more resources that we talk about. We just did a blog post today about using video, incorporating video marketing in emails, and how your emails can have the mutual benefit you get between email and video marketing. So be sure to check that out. Let us know if you have any questions. You can also find more about our program on the website. So if you have any questions about what we talk about or the program, feel free to reach out. As I mentioned before, this whole first inaugural webinar on Blab will also be on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/splashmediau. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope this Blab experience was great for you, and hope to do it again for our May webinar. I can't believe we're already thinking about our May webinar. But until then, we'll be online. Talk to you later.